kind of suffer from claustrophobia a bit. Good morning everybody, and as you'll probably notice, we're back out camping. We're in a very open tarp. This is the DCF MLD Cuban fibre Monk tarp. It's basically a very lightweight single tarp. It's about 130 grams or something like that. And we've got the medium sized FKT event MLD Bivy. So this is a waterproof bivy, and I had a mixed night last night. When I was in the Peak District with this last week, it was quite slippery, but I think that was the mat that I was using. But generally, other than being slippery, and I had the Pro-Lite closed cell foam inside the mat, it was comfortable enough. It was a decent night, to be fair, you know, other than just sliding everywhere and being awkward to get it, you know, comfortable. But once it was kind of like comfortable, and it was fine. And I even did it up last week, which is kind of interesting coming on to this too last night. So this time I wanted to bring with me my NXT mat, which is now under the bivy but on top of a foam mat to give it some protection. And I put the NXT mat inside the bivy, which worked fine. And then obviously I've got my sleeping bag in there as well, and that worked fine when my head was out and I could breathe, and maneuverability was reasonable. I will say the medium event bivy from MLD, it is not designed for a thicker sleeping mat like this. It really is designed for a very thin mat, so we can't put any blame or anything on the bivy. It's use and user and how you feel in an enclosed space. That's really the issue. So I put my head down, fell asleep, and for the most part was comfortable, maybe between about 11 o'clock when I put my head down, and maybe about 2 o'clock, something like that, and it started to rain. Well, there was like a little bit of mist in the air about 2 o'clock or something like that. I had to do the bivy up, or at least I closed it about like 20% across here, and I couldn't do it up. You know, I wanted to do it up, but I felt my whole body, it just felt very warm, very uncomfortable, and I don't know, it's difficult to explain it, but it just felt very uncomfortable. Psychologically, it was just, I think it was just as quite bad claustrophobia, because it's like I couldn't move my legs, because like this I can, now I've got the mat out, I can sort of stretch my legs like that and I can do this, but with the mat inside you can't even do those simple bendy maneuvers. So I thought, okay, well, let's put the mat outside underneath, which is what I did, and that helped. but it still felt quite closed, you know, around my body, and I still couldn't. I tried to do the hood up a couple of times, but I couldn't do it up. It just, I had to have air, a decent amount of air. Now this design here does have this little waterproof flap on it, so you can in theory do it up, you know, and have an air hole. I said air hole, but I was still finding that rather than just sort of, you know, that much so my nose could stick out, you know, I was having to have that much. So in the end it was a good job I'd put the bivvy up, although stupidly I wasn't really, because I'd never planned on using the tarp. I'd never actually planned on putting the tarp up. I really just put it up because I got it very recently and I've never pitched it, and I just wanted to pitch it, and I thought, well, I've got it, so I'll pitch it. But the wind and the rain was actually coming this way, so, you know, into the tarp. If I'd have really, we kind of got here a bit later, then we were just pitching up, and I was just thinking, oh, I just put it up just so I can get a picture of it, really. And then I kind of realised that the wind was coming this way, so I'd been better off pitching it the other way round. But then if I'd have done that, then the rain wouldn't have got to me. I wouldn't have needed to have done this up, and then I wouldn't have learnt anything. So, you know, and this is why coming to a local area and just playing with something like this is kind of handy. A little bit of history as to why I got this bivvy. And if you remember, if you saw my video with Chris when we did one of our Scotland trips, I think it was like October last year. Yeah, it was like that October trip last year, and we had to abandon camp in the middle of the night, and we basically just ended up sort of, well, Chris got his bivvy out, and I had an uncomfortable night. And if I'd have had a bivvy, a lightweight bivvy, emergency bivvy, hence where this really comes in. So for me, this is really, you know, an emergency bivvy. And there's some mizzle in the air now as well. It's really not very nice at the moment. I'm hoping it clears. The forecast was that it was going to be maybe a very light shower in the night, if that. It wasn't even, to be fair, it wasn't even supposed to rain a few days ago, and now we've got this misty stuff. So I think it's like I said, it's primarily this one I got for emergency use, because it's about 250 grams. Obviously you've got a waterproof base, you've got an event top, and, you know, if you had to get into it in an emergency, I probably would somehow in an emergency manage, I guess. But I think for a comfortable night sleep in the open, you know, if it was going to be raining for half the night, I think I'm going to struggle with this. The other one that I've got is large. I struggled with that done up as well. I just really don't think I like enclosed spaces. But I think the other thing is, if I'm warm in an open space, even like inside just a regular sleeping bag, in a tarp or a tent, but under cover, then I feel like I can breathe and move okay. But if I'm too warm in an enclosed space like this, that's when the problems start to arise and it gets very uncomfortable. So it partly was my nose, which, as I've mentioned before, I get like really bad congestion and bunged up, and the sinuses are not the greatest, so I really don't think that helps. But I also think it is just a constriction of the body. I think it's a psychological nervous thing, because it's like the body starts to warm up. You can't move your legs very much, and it was a very uncomfortable, maybe not very uncomfortable, but quite uncomfortable night. And I didn't sleep probably between 2 or 3 o'clock and 7 o'clock or something like that, unfortunately. And even now there's some rain in the air. It's not much, it's just like misty stuff. So I think my takeaway from this is, if you want to do bivvying in the MLD lineup, go for large. Unless you're very small, or you really want to save weight, and you suffer from no claustrophobia whatsoever, and you're happy in closed, fairly restrictive spaces. Because the strange thing is, even with this medium, when I was trying it at home, it felt quite spacious. But out here, in use, with a sleeping bag, getting a little bit warm, it's just a bit too close. So like I said, if you're okay with it, then it's a really nice thing. I would suggest putting a mat of some sort at the bottom, even if it's a closed cell foam mat, just so you've got something between the waterproof base, but that's not breathable, and your sleeping bag. I kind of see what, if anything, has happened to the sleeping bag. I think it'll be fine, because I think it will breathe up and out. So even though I think it, I can see dampness like that, I think it's more superficial dampness, than anything else. So the sleeping bag doesn't feel wet, although over by the door, because I hadn't zipped it up completely, I think one part of the sleeping bag did get damp, but generally speaking, it feels, certainly on the inside anyway, it feels dry. And I have to say, on the outside, it doesn't feel wet. It feels tacky on the inside of the material of the base here, but the sleeping bag itself, doesn't feel wet. I think I just feel like tacky, because it is quite, it's not, I don't know, it's difficult to describe it really, because it's not really warm, but I've taken my trousers off because I was warming up. So I think my skin, this is why I like to wear leggings and such like, because my skin against sleeping bag and such is just a bit uncomfortable. So I do prefer, to wear. So that mist is coming back again, but just gonna have to ignore it really. I think it's 9:10, so we're gonna have to start moving a little bit of breakfast on in a minute. But yeah, there's that rainy mist in the air again. I must admit, I was hoping that this would pass over. So yeah, so I think if you want to try bivvying, then I would recommend the large, if you're going to get one of these, and put these. I think these mats will fit in, but a closed cell foam mat is still better in these more constrictive bivvies. But I think this does fit. I've definitely used one of these. I've used the Xtherm in the large soul event bivvy, but I didn't have to do it up, and that worked. That worked fine. Did that one summer. There's a video on here. I've spent 3 nights on Dartmoor in it, but again my head was out and it's quite large, so you can, you know, your legs can move. It's quite spacious. So I think this is definitely going to be my emergency bivvy, which is what I got it for. You know, I didn't get it because it's, like I said, you've just got to zip across the top, so there's nothing. I'll have to do a video, now I've got this one, I'll have to do a video on this and you know, the sole bivvy, because they're basically the same. It's just this is a stripped down lighter version. Hello. And this is inside, so there's not a, we've done it up, so this is inside done up completely. Obviously we've got the little one in with us, so that took up a little bit of space, but not exactly, you know, not exactly a huge amount of space. You see, even now I'm starting to think I need to open it. I need to get it open. I just feel my, it's just, I thought I was going to be okay just for that demonstration, and it's my nose, it's just, I don't know, it's not a very nice, maybe bivvying just isn't for everyone. And I know obviously you could use like a, you know, Sandy, I know you mentioned, because I'm sure you'll watch this video, I know you mentioned the Ridge Raider, but that's like 850 grams or something like that. And what I don't like the design of that, because at least with this I can, like, you know, when it's not raining. But when it's not raining, you know, with that Ridge Raider, you're either in it or you just got to get out of it. Whereas what I like with these designs is that now, you know, I can do things from bed without having to, you know, get out. And frankly, if I was going to be carrying 850 grams, I'd rather take a, you know, a tarp, you know, and then be under a tarp so that my head is covered. Or, you know, take the Trail Star, or, you know, any one of the MLD shelters, and just, you know, have a proper, you know, and have a proper shelter. You know, I wouldn't, you know, for that weight, I'd rather just take the Enan or the, you know, a tent or something, you know. But it's, yeah, so I was, anyway, so that's how much space there was underneath. But even then I was starting to feel I need to get my head out. Alright, well, we need to get some breakfast on anyway. So you saw inside briefly.